Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan. At least 7 workers have died and 3 others remain trapped after an under-construction tunnel at a hydro power project in Uttarakhand's Chamoli district collapsed. The incident occurred at the Vishnugad People Koti hydropower project after a sudden rush of water and debris entered the tunnel late on Thursday night. Of the 22 workers who were inside at the time, 12 have been rescued alive while 3 remain trapped. Rescue teams are working to reach the trapped workers despite rising water levels and debris still inside the tunnel. Teams from the National and State Disaster Response Forces, the Indo-Tibetan Border Police and Fire Services have been deployed at the site. Rescue personnel are continuing efforts to locate and evacuate those still trapped inside. The collapse has once again highlighted the risks associated with major construction projects in Uttarakhand's mountainous terrain. The Himalayan region is particularly vulnerable because of its fragile geology, seismic activity and unpredictable underground conditions. But what really is the way forward? I take this conversation ahead with Mr. Ashok Kumar, former DGP of Uttarakhand, Dr. Naveen Bhatnagar, former DIG of the NDRF, Dr. Harish Tripathi, Principal Architect, and Ms. Harak Patel, Specialist in Preparedness and Planning, All India Disaster Mitigation Institute. Thank you so much to all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast. Let me begin with Dr. Naveen Bhatnagar. Dr. Bhatnagar, in your assessments, given where the situation stands right now, the rescue and relief operations, what can we expect in terms of the teams now finding more and more people in a condition where they can be revived?
Actually, in this case, there is a complete dark in the particular excavation. So I mean to say that we should remain prepared for all the worst conditions also, because first worst condition is this, that in this season of this rain and muddy area, so we should take care about it, and audit is required before starting this excavation. But anyhow, all the formalities has already been done, and to my information, all the preventive measures were taken by the state government as well as the authorities working there. But like Silchara, incidents, so we have not taken lesson proper way. But anyhow, here already I have spoken at so many channels that in the season of this raining season, especially the landslide and all these things may happen. So here everybody knows that these mountains are of muddy stone built. So anyhow, water stagnation is there on the top of the hills area. So when we are doing the excavation in the particular area, so what happened that if you will feel any, or you will use any jerking or any explosive in this particular area, so definitely that it will be damaged, and lot of flash water and debris as well as the mudslide will come. It happens here also, come inside that tunnel, and the people who were got the chance to have this air pockets, so they were immediately rescued. But the people who were trapped in this mud and they don't have these air pockets, so definitely they hit it and they were died due to non-availability of the air or oxygen. So it happened. So anyhow, our rescue operators are doing well, and they are searching the bodies, and as well as the people who are under this debris as well as the mud also. Yeah.
Yes, let me bring in Mr. Ashok Kumar into the conversation. Mr. Kumar, we've learned that at least 3 people continue to still be in that tunnel presently. So 12 people have been rescued alive, 7 lives unfortunately have been lost, but 3 workers continue to be in that tunnel. In your assessment, sir, and from your understanding of such situations in the past, what is the likelihood, like I said, of the 3 people managing to survive this disaster while the teams look for them?
To me, it looks that there are very rare chances of survival because of heavy debris and water. I don't think they will have, oxygen supply. And also, whosoever was, safe, they have been brought out. I believe now there are very, very little chances of survival.
Right. At the same time, Mr. Kumar, what is it that the state then really needs to do at this point in time to expedite? Because this is, of course, not the first disaster, but unfortunately, are we well equipped to deal with such disasters?
See, when Silkyara happened, I was the DGP. And then the whole nation had, stood behind, and we had even imported foreign technologies to, save the laborers. And luckily, we could save everybody. But that was a different operation. There, the debris had come in between, and the people were trapped behind the debris. So we had to supply them oxygen and all, and food supply, etc., which we could do it through a pipe, But here, chances are this appears to be little different. Firstly, secondly, every case would be little different, and SDRF and NDRF keep increasing their capabilities, and the state police. But disasters are of such magnitude, saying that we have become 100% foolproof or 100% we have become capable of handling every disaster would be saying little too much. I mean, whether it is Kedarnath or Silkyara or now Joshimath, every disaster comes with new challenges, and the challenges are too big. So saying that we become 100% foolproof will not be right.
Yes, but at the same time, Dr. Harish Tripathi, bringing you into the conversation, sir, I want to understand then from your perspective, what can be done to avoid these situations? Because like I said, this is not the first time a tunnel is collapsing. Why do we then insist on continuing work, especially during the monsoon season, where we know that we may not be in a situation to really deal with the disaster? It becomes worse off in the mountain regions, sir, of India, especially during the monsoon. So why can't we take, a small step of stopping work, at least in the monsoon season?
Devika, you are right. It is really an unfortunate incident, and I mourn with the deceased workers. In fact, I'll tell you, my personal feeling that all these calamities or accidents, they are not beyond science, and they can be predicted and mitigated very much. But as a country, we have not been really we have not been really serious about this. And the ecosystem in which these companies in India are working with L1 model and with other expenses, that might be leading to a lot of compromises in terms of safety. And also, a lot of times there might be legal, as you said, why they can't stop the work, might be they are hard pressed with the time, overall time duration that they have to complete the project. So that might be the reason. And 3-4 reactions are there, as well as I think I will personally I'll personally put it that this is amounting to the negligence from the executors. And second is all the protocol that is required for tunneling in this kind of zone that is not being followed, because this is not first thing, and earlier also there were accidents in this zone, in this tunnel only. And then third is that the protocol that is required for tunneling in monsoon season, you rightly said, that is not followed. And overall, my feeling is that it is possible that safety protocols that is required for this kind of work may be not followed, either to cut the cost or save time, whatever it is. And obviously, you see, there is no provision of mandatory escape tube, etc. So, I mean, the kind of protocol we need, I mean, we always say China is working, or some other countries doing a lot of good work in these kind of conditions. But obviously, they must be following all the protocols, and they must be serious about safety of their people. So that is my take on this.
Yes, let me bring in Ms. Harak Patel into the conversation as well. Ms. Patel, are there no systems that exist today in the world in terms of technology or anything else that can be deployed in such situations in India? What is it that we need to demand the governments to do so that there is at least we are better prepared, and in terms of safety after a disaster, we are better prepared?
Much for that question. We see this tragedy is complex. It is no question that it is a tragedy, and first and foremost for the workers as well as their family. And so, like you said, we need to understand what is needed so that we can see what technologies exist, what processes can be deployed from a planning perspective. And in order to do that, we must understand the risks that we are facing. So first and foremost, there is a geological risk. The locations where these tunnels are being created for connectivity, for hydropower, are quite diverse and risky terrains. Here we see it's a mountain environment where the geology is complex, slopes are unstable, and the region is exposed to landslides and seismic activity. And when you excavate such a mountain, you're essentially changing the stress conditions that are inside of that mountain. So the question is not simply, was the tunnel structurally designed properly, but rather, was the design adequately accounting for what was being changed underground? So yes, technology is important, and equally, design at multiple stages is just as important. We see here water there was a sudden influx of water, and it is not simply a hazard inside a tunnel, but rather water that causes changes in the stability of rock, of soil. It creates pressure and it carries debris. And so we see a lot of changes and need for updates in design, updates in planning, updates in early warning systems that lets us know what these changes are doing and what it means for the safety of our workers. So do we have the technology that can prevent this? That is a question that will continuously have to be asked, but what needs to be done first is really asking whether the risk itself was foreseeable. That is where anticipatory action and planning becomes so important. We should not wait for a rockfall or a water surge to tell us that the tunnel has now become unsafe, and rather there should be a chain of action. There's risk detection, there's warning, then decision, evacuation, and rescue. And all this can work when there are predetermined and standardized thresholds. At what threshold, depending on the geological aspects, depending on the environmental aspects, depending on the complexity of the tunnel system, at what threshold should work slow down? At what threshold should workers move to safe zones? And at what threshold is it critical that the tunnel must be evacuated? These standards need to be set, these standards need to be updated as tunnel construction continues. So this is what I mean by anticipatory action. The technology needed to understand how geological factors are changing over time comes not simply from technology that is imported maybe from more experienced nations with tunnel development, but rather also including local knowledge, local experience of local terrains. It is the people who live, work with the environment in these spaces that understand truly how the geology changes and how different factors of tunnel construction itself need to be taken into consideration when looking at safety measures.
Right.
And so that's why, yes?
Yes, I just want to bring in Dr. Naveen Bhatnagar then back into the conversation. Dr. Bhatnagar, you've just heard, some of the other specialists in this field also give their suggestions. But what then keeps India from implementing any of these suggestions, sir? And at the same time, why do we take the lives of our workers so casually, so frivolously? The fact that no one from the state or from the company that was working on this tunnel, that nobody will actually be pulled up and be held responsible, because this will be then, in a way, we will just call this another natural disaster and people will go scot-free. But as some of the guests have pointed out, it's not possible that those who were working on this tunnel did not have an inkling that things were becoming unsafe for human beings to continue that work. Why is it that we're unable to then punish such people, sir?
Yeah, rightly everybody told about it. So they have rightly pointed out that the contractors and the other people who are engaged in this process should be taken into hard task. They should take, because they have failed to take the preventive measures. Also, they don't have the high pressure pumps with them. As and when this mud cloud, this mud flow came inside the tunnel, immediately they should start this heavy pumps and take it. Because now the water coming in this particular area was, and because a lot of muddy water is there. So the people, already I have told you that if anybody is having the air pocket safety in this particular mud, so they are still now alive and they have given for rescue. But the workers who are came into this muddy flow, so they drown inside that flow because a lot of stones were there, no air pocket was there, no air supply was there, so there was nothing to do for air. I came to know that 2 or 3 people are still now, they got the air pocket and they are being survived and they will be survived. But anyhow, they should have this high pressure pumps. If they must have this high pressure pump, so they can take out this water flow. This is the only way. And our rescuer should try, or the engineers who are working there, they should try to stop this coming water flow. Then only we can control. Otherwise, in this such type of muddy flow, it is very, very impossible and very, very difficult for every rescuer to take the people from that mud. Very difficult because lot of challenges are there. But anyhow, NDRF is very much competent and they will do their best efforts, and they are doing their best efforts, including your SDRF and the police and the army and the nearby people who are helping them. But the situation is not like that. Situation is not supporting. But if they are using this high pressure, pumps, definitely we will be able to achieve our targets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Ashok Kumar, your thoughts on the same as well, sir. As former DGP, I want to understand from you, in these situations, when something does go wrong because of incessant rains or there is an element of a natural disaster, how many times are people from the government as well as the companies actually held responsible? Who's really held accountable? Or do we just paint this as another natural disaster and let people at the top go scot-free?
See, many a times accountability is fixed, especially when it is very evident, from the first moment itself. People are suspended also. But in complicated cases, we have to first find out where is the fault. Right, protocols do exist. Though we don't have such sophisticated technologies which Harak Patel was talking. I don't think we have so much early warning systems and such meticulous technology which can predict that when the disaster is going to come or early signals for that. But I think whenever the negligence is very clear, action is taken. But when the responsibility cannot be pointed out or fixed at a single person, then it becomes difficult. Then usually we go for committees and committee reports and finding out who was at fault and where was the negligence. But action does happen many times. It is not that every time everyone goes scot-free. It is not that.
But in this case, in your assessment, in this particular case, does it require then a larger inquiry into what went wrong and who was truly responsible for deputing over 20 people at a time when there were rains and there was an inclination at least that something could possibly go wrong?
Yes, this is a big question, especially in rainy seasons. Going into tunnel is not risk-free. So maybe, I don't know what were the compelling circumstances. So the people and what are their protocols, how much they are working during rains. So I cannot comment offhand, but many factors have to be taken into account, and only then and proper accountability can be fixed.
Right. Let me get in a word on that with Ms. Harak Patel as well. Ms. Patel, same question to you. In your reading of the situation so far and what's happened, do you believe that there is a need to fix accountability?
Before we go into really trying to understand who was at fault, I think we need to sometimes channel our attention towards what can be done to prevent it from happening again and again, as we are seeing continuous tunnel collapses because of various different reasons each time. Some, like we said, geological, some structural. There has to be accountability, especially considering the fact that we have lives at hand. It is lives at risk. It is not simply infrastructure at risk. And that is why this needs to be taken very seriously. And for that, I will stress once again, it is not always understanding who is at fault, but also understanding what can be done to prevent it. And so in my reading of the situation, I think our efforts need to be channeled towards two successful plannings, not simply a successful rescue, which is very important. A timely rescue is a sign of a successful response plan, but at the same time, timely evacuation, which is done ahead of time, is a sign of successful preventive planning and anticipatory action. So yes, it is important to hold the right people accountable, but the objective of that should be to improve current systems. It should be to bring the right changes that leads us to prevention and that leads us to the right anticipatory action so that lives can be saved and disasters like this can be prevented as much as possible.
Right, absolutely. On that note, I've run out of time, but I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast to take this conversation forward. We step into a very short break.